I, Stewart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansion's news podcast for the second week of November 2014. And I have a few stories to let everybody know, and they're in no specific order.
Mine are always in order. Why don't you put yours in an order?
Because it makes it more exciting, because you never know what the next topic's going to be.
Well, mine, I lay them out so one leads into another.
Yeah, but that's boring.
You might want to consider that.
That's just plain boring.
No,
it's like you want to have something, you never know what I'm going to say next.
all right.
Okay, so let's go first to the western U.S. and to Nevada, which is close to where you used to live.
I spent a lot of time in Nevada.
Yeah, but we won't say what you were doing there, because...
Secret.
Yeah. Anyway, there's been hundreds of small earthquakes that have rumbled under northwestern Nevada, and scientists are calling it a seismic drum roll, if you can believe that. Now, they said, this does not necessarily mean that a big one will come, but it's good to be prepared just in case. What does that mean? For example, in this past September, there were 500 mini-quakes in southeastern California in just 2 days.
Wow.
That's a lot of earthquakes in 2 days.
Yes, it is.
And the largest one was only 3.8. But Nevada has been, they call it, swarm buzzing since July 12. And it's an area, maybe you heard of, called the Sheldon National Wildlife Refuge.
No, not offhand.
And since the end of October, they've grown stronger with magnitudes up to 4.6.
Wow.
So it's getting a little rough out there. And of course we know why, because remember a couple of years ago in Reno or Lake Tahoe had those hundreds of earthquakes, and they said it was because magma is moving under the area towards Yellowstone from the Pacific subduction zone.
Yeah. So
that's apparently still continuing. And now I'm going to switch gears again. It's like, ooh, how exciting, hold on.
Well, now I'm not excited, I'm just confused.
Is that, that's not abnormal for you, actually?
No, that's you. You're the one that stays confused.
Okay, so now let's go to Ukraine.
Well, that's a big switch.
Yes,
From
see?
the western U.S. to Ukraine.
See?
They both start with U, so that's how United States and Ukraine.
Yeah, but it was Nevada.
United States to Ukraine,
All right,
that's
okay,
the
back
segue.
to me, back to me.
I'll help you.
Please don't.
Yeah, I will.
Anyway, Ukrainian authorities this past week accused Russia of sending dozens of military vehicles into its territory, and Russia says it's unfounded and provocative. How dare you say we sent anything? Anyway, what they counted, the Ukrainians, was 32 tanks, 16 D-30 howitzers, which I thought they haven't used that since World War II, and 30 CAM-AZ heavy trucks, which crossed the checkpoint into the so-called rebel held territory of eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainians said it was an armored column and consisted of a battalion tactical group of Russian armed forces. Now, the Russian Defense Ministry said that it was a provocative report aimed at further fueling of tensions, and that it was fueled by the rumors in social networks. But Ukraine itself remains very unsettled. And very interestingly, just the last couple of days, former Soviet President Gorbachev, remember him? He has that big violet...
I saw his picture on the thing.
He's like 83 years old now.
Is he? Looks good for you.
Actually looks better now than he did before.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, he said, in a speech in Germany, that a new Cold War may already exist. Where did you hear that before? I told you that months ago.
That's because they read your stuff.
But what's interesting to me is the reference to a Cold War, because that is a reference to Soviet Union, because that's when it happened, and he was the president of the Soviet Union. So
And it could also be a reference to your next story.
no, because guess what?
What, you're switching again?
Yeah, But you know what? It's kind of close, because my next story takes place in the Bering Sea, which is between Siberia and Alaska. So it's kind of,
All right.
I'll
help you.
Jump. Please
Organize.
do not help me.
No, I'll help you.
Anyway, in the Bering Sea, there is the remnants of Super Typhoon Nuri. Is that related to George Nuri from Coast to Coast?
Isn't nori a seafood?
Well, yeah, but this is Typhoon Nuri, and it has massive waves, heavy rain and snow to coastal Alaska and the Aleutian Islands, and they're calling it the largest storm in the Bering Sea that ever existed. But here's the catch on that. They only have records since 1977, so really, how do they know? All right. They said the powerful storm will whip the jet stream, causing a ripple effect that will carry cold air to here,
I told
where
you.
we are.
It segued in from the Cold War to
Cold air. Okay,
I
that's
told
good.
you.
That's good. That's good. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
It's-
Now
you
it
organize
said,
better than what you thought.
I know. I can't even. I scare myself sometimes. Now it says the Arctic outbreak will funnel down through Canada over the next week, bringing a deep freeze to the United States with temperatures 20 degrees below average. Well, what else is new? Now, it says the incredibly strong cyclone will alter the jet stream, allowing for the cold air to plunge into the United States next week. And you know what they're calling it? Something you never heard of before. A polar vortex, like duh.
Oh, I heard of that.
They're teasing you.
Oh.
It's like, it's like all of a sudden it's another bowl. And it says it will bring snow from Montana to the Great Lakes, starting today. And the snow may reach as far north as New England. And of course, this is the second winter in a row that this is starting to hurt. Remember last November with the big snow and everything? And that's because of the Ice Age.
No, global warming. That's what the experts say global warming.
I know, global change or something.
Climate
change. And they have a new word which I can't remember what
I
it
thought it
is.
was climate change. Was the
Yeah, but
newest.
now there's a new
Oh, something else?
global or climate the challenge or something, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to change again, this time to Central Asia and the Middle East. Because, and actually next to Michigan, and you'll see in a minute, the mother of a Lebanese-American journalist who was killed in Turkey was working for an Iranian news agency who she suspects suspects foul play in the death of her daughter in what Turkish officials say was a traffic accident. The woman's name was Serena Shim, a U.S. citizen from Michigan and a mother of two who worked for Iran's state-owned network called Press TV. That doesn't sound very Iranian, Press TV, like maybe Jihad Press TV or something like that would be,
Make more sense.
Yeah. Anyway, she was killed after the rental car she was riding in collided with a cement mixer on October 26th in the Turkish town of Suruk, S-U-R-U-C, near the Turkish-Syrian border. But the accident came just days after Shim was threatened by the Turkish intelligence services and accused her of being a spy. Now, the mother says, I believe my daughter gave her life for the truth, and I absolutely suspect foul play. She insists the daughter's death was no accident, and she had been, now here's the interesting part, she had been threatened by Turkish officials after reporting ISIS militants were being smuggled back and forth across the Syrian-Turkish border in the back of aid vehicles. So that is proof of a collusion of ISIS with Western, Turkish, and other, so it's like they're funneling them in from elsewhere.
Right, and she found that out, and so
And
they
she
didn't
found
like
her
it.
life, and she said her daughter feared for her life and had been threatened. Now, Turkey, the mother says that Turkey has been labeled by Reporters Without Borders, I guess that's an organization, that Turkey is the largest prison for journalists. And she said, I'm a bit frightened what they might use against me.
I've never heard of Reporters Without Borders. That must be a new thing.
Well,
But they just brought it up like they do.
Like polar vortex.
Right, like it's been here forever
and
now.
ice quake and all that stuff. Now, the woman was covering an ongoing war between the Iraqi Kurds, who are connected to Israel, by the way, and ISIS militants for control of the Syrian town of Kobani. Photographs of the crash in Turkish media show what appears to be Shim's vehicle in a head-on collision with a large cement truck on a one-way highway. So how could there be a head-on collision on a one-way? Everyone's going the same direction, right? And the mother said that the scene suggested it was staged to look like an accident. Now here's where the U.S. gets involved. The U.S. State Department and the Turkish government have not contacted the mother about the daughter's death. Well, that's a big clue right there. And it gets even more interesting. The Turkish media reports that Poe's cousin, identified as Judy Irish, was actually driving the car, and that she was responsible for the crash.
On a one-way.
On a one-way, and that and she was the sole culprit, and the truck driver was not in any way responsible. Now, the State Department told Fox News it does not conduct investigations into deaths overseas. Well, that's baloney, because yes, it does. And it says, likewise, in some cases, FBI may choose to assist a foreign government upon the foreign government's request or investigate whether a death may violate U.S. law. Well, first of all, if it's overseas, what does U.S. law have to do with it?
Well, isn't she, this woman's a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
And her daughter's a U.S. citizen?
Yes, but it occurred in Turkey.
It doesn't matter.
So how can U.S. law apply there?
But the embassy still should be investigating and helping.
And it says that the woman was born in Michigan and raised in Dearborn and Livonia. So she's a person from the state. I'm going to switch gears again.
Wow.
Now we're going to outer space. Well, kind of. It's about UFOs. And you know Dan Aykroyd from Saturday Night Live and all the movies and all. Well, Dan Aykroyd, the actor, is known to have strong views and opinions on UFOs and extraterrestrials. And he told the New Zealand Herald on November 4th why aliens have so little, and according to some, nothing at all, to do with the human race while visiting and observing our world. He says it's because we're violent and they don't want anything to do with us. Well, I think not exactly. Now this is the interesting part. He said he's convinced that UFOs were in the New York vicinity on the New Jersey side of the river on September 11, 2001, when the World Trade Centers were attacked. The Ghostbusters actor said he saw 2 UFOs that day and believes it likely what the more advanced aliens saw in that horrifying act of terrorism was enough for them to forego establishing contact with humans. Well, no. But of course, it's interesting that he reported that the UFOs were there. Most likely they were there to see that their plans were being carried out, not that they were horrified. Because if they were horrified, why didn't they stop it? And it gets even more intriguing because he told the Sunday Times Magazine, and this is a quote from Dan Aykroyd, it's because we are a violent species. They don't want anything to do with us. They watch us. There were 2 white orbs over New Jersey when the second tower went down on 9/11. They were on CNN for about 2 minutes, then they never showed it again. And what he thinks about the aliens, he says they are disgusted with us, and rightly so, because we are a depraved, disgusting species. Woo! Well, I have to agree with that part.
Well, I think people are going down a depraved, disgusting path, unfortunately. But there are some, for example, those who study hyperspace oversoul techniques that are not.
Right, I know. Now, continuing on, this story is actually on the same topic.
Really? You're getting better at organizing.
I'm a little, and it's about an abduction question mark.
Okay.
Now, there was a security camera in Cavalier, North Dakota, that caught a strange event that looks like a car has been abducted by UFOs. It shows on a dark street, no one's around, and then all of a sudden this car comes down from around the corner, and all of a sudden there's a flash of white, and the car just vanished, like beep, right off the screen. And this was taken from a security camera on a building on that street. So I invite all of you viewers to go into the link, watch the video, and let me know what you think. Actually, was it a doctored up film? Is it real? What do you think? Let me know. Now, back to the Middle East of sorts.
Again.
But actually it's also Britain. Because this really backs up much of what I've been saying.
And how about your book? In fact, I should have brought one to show people, True World History.
True World History. Well,
Humanity's Saga.
Yeah, well, anyway, there's
book.
another book called The Lost Gospel.
It's not as good as yours. True World History, Humanity's Saga.
Well, because actually I have more information in this book. But this book claims that Mary Magdalene was the original Virgin Mary. And it's based on a manuscript the authors found in the British Library that's 1,450 years old. So that's an old book. And it was translated, and they claim that there was an assassination attempt on Mary's 2 children, which is what I've written about. Remember I said Peter, you know, that
didn't care for Mary.
He was the one with the knife and the Last Supper.
And that's why she
painting.
was running off into the hills where my people are from.
Yeah, your people, your peeps.
In Savoie.
Now, Jesus, according to the book, first of all, the Church of England dismisses this claim and says it's like the work of Dan Brown. Yeah, well, only he did tell the truth in that book. Jesus married his soulmate, Mary Magdalene, and they had 2 children. I know they had 3, as this book claims. The Lost Gospel also alleges there was an unknown plot on Jesus' life 13 years before his crucifixion and an assassination attempt on Mary Magdalene and their children. Now, this is based on a manuscript that goes back 1,450 years that they discovered in the British Library. They spent months translating the ancient text and have controversially said that the original Virgin Mary was Jesus' wife, not his mother. You think he had like a complex?
What do you mean?
His wife, his mother, they're the same one? Hello? A little suspicious there to me. You know, I think that Jesus was a little...
Well, we saw, remember during the chateau,
Yeah.
we saw things.
Anyway, the book also elaborates on Jesus' alleged connections, listen people, to top political figures in the Roman Empire, such as Emperor Tiberius and his best friend, the soldier Sejanus. Which confirms what I said, that the whole thing was a political setup to create the New World religion. Now, the book was written in Syriac, the manuscript they found, which is a dialect of the Middle Aramaic that was once spoken across the Middle East and Eastern Arabia and all of that. In the Bible, Mary Magdalene is remembered in popular culture as a prostitute and was portrayed by the Catholic Church as the ideal penitent because she supposedly anointed the feet of Jesus. But although she is mentioned in each of the 4 Gospels in the New Testament, it does not once allude to the fact that she was a prostitute or a sinner. The Vatican made that up. And that's what I write about in True World History, actually. Now, there's other books and information that corroborate this, because there's a guy named Nikos Kazantzakis, who in 1953 wrote a book, The Last Temptation of Christ, and also claimed that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene. And Dan Brown also used that theme in his book, The Da Vinci Code. And plus, there was that fragment in 2012 that was found in Turkey, which also suggested and where Jesus referred to her as his wife.
And that's been proved true. I've written about that, a report on that a couple of different times.
And also, I'll go one further and tell people to remember the Nag Hammadi documents that were discovered in Egypt years ago, that has a gospel according to Mary Magdalene, who was his wife, and they actually had an intimate relationship. It says they had an intimate relationship and children. And the book also goes on to talk about the Merovingian kings of France, who were descended from the bloodline of Christ and Mary Magdalene. There's also a Coptic document where Jesus says to his disciples, in reference to Magdalene, my wife. So there's a lot of clues here. Mary Magdalene's name gives a clue about where she came from, a town called Magdala. And that's why she's called the Magdalene. And today there is still a place called Magdala, 120 miles north of Jerusalem, on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, which is where they found that undersea town called Oahu, which is a whole other thing, which I'll talk about another time.
And you wrote about a little bit in Healer's Handbook.
Well,
they
hadn't discovered that town until
but you had written about the Oahu Council a bit.
Now, here's cover up. The British Library will not endorse the new book and its conclusions, saying, quote, "It is not for us to comment." I guess they're not amused. And there's a professor of history at the Church of Oxford University who says, "It sounds like the deepest bilge. I'm very surprised that the British Library gives these authors house room." You mean that they told the truth. That's what's upsetting to
And
you.
they let them read their book.
Right. So poo on you, Oxford University.
That could be your new thing, if people get a poo or something.
Well, that's where you come in. Well, give me a poo story.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Really?
Stick a fork in me, I'm done.
All right, well, I have a lot of stories here.
How unusual.
We have a new group showing up in Syria. Did you hear about this one?
No.
Khorasan. Now, to me, it reminded me of the Quran.
Spell it.
Khorasan. The Khorasan group in Syria. And apparently, the U.S. officials describe this group as senior skilled Al-Qaeda veterans who moved to Syria and set up operations under the protection of Nusra Front, which is the main Syrian Al-Qaeda affiliate. So now we have all these new groups emerging. And so they're attacking these groups, saying basically that they are as dangerous as ISIS. So anyway, they said that the U.S. have described Khorasan as a particularly menacing faction of militants who have been using their sanctuary in Syria to try to organize plots to attack the U.S. and other Western targets, possibly including airliners. So they're attacking this Khorasan group.
So in other words, nothing new.
But, well, we're getting new names of groups now. ISIS popped out of nowhere. Remember, we wondered where Al-Qaeda went? Well, apparently this is Al-Qaeda. Now they've grown into Khorasan. So they're creating this web of fear out there. And then also, I don't know if you noticed in the news, but apparently they have increased security at the Jerusalem shrine.
Yeah, right.
A lot of violence going on there as well. I wanted to bring that to the attention because we have talked about the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock being at a bone of contention between the Muslims and the Jews. So that's still ongoing. Now this one I thought you would find interesting because now they have a new way for jihadis to get to where they want to go. And do you know how that is?
Jihadi airline?
Cruise ships.
Oh.
So apparently they're booking tickets on cruise ships so they can come in through the ports into battle zones in Syria and Iraq. Now I don't know, this is interesting because if you're on a cruise ship, would the cruise ships be taking their people to Syria and Iraq in the middle of war?
First of all, how are they doing that? Because in order to get to Syria, they have to go into the Mediterranean, and the Israeli Navy is there.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Is, when you think about the plot, and this story actually came out of Monaco. So cruise ships are not going to be going into battle zones in Syria and Iraq, but that's how they're saying people are getting in. And so because of this is they're creating an international police body that's going to expand a pilot program known as the letter I, Check It, under which airlines will bounce passenger information off Interpol's databases, hoping that this system will expand to include cruise operators, banks, hotels, and other private sector partners. Because it's going to, first of all, discourage people to take cruise ships because there might be jihadists on there, right?
Or Ebola patients.
Yeah, and so now it's going to give the government a reason to continue to check you out more and more. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. When you stop and think about it, it just can't be.
Can you imagine the talent night on that jihadi cruise?
Well, apparently it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, now listen to this one.
It's the beheading event. Who can behead the most people in 1 minute gets a free prize on the cruise ship.
Free knife. Well, a wealthy Kurd is building a replica of the White House in northern Iraq. Now, to me,
that'll fit. That'll look like it's natural.
Well, to me that sounds like there's got to be some kind of, they're putting in that energy. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a hidden ritual behind this. There's an Iraqi businessman who's building his dream home. What Iraqi would want to have his dream home?
I want to have my
White
dream
House.
home in the north of Iraq, yeah.
There's a city called Erbil,
Erbil.
And it says that this is actually called Dream City in the Kurdish capital. It's a gated community. And the replica will apparently eventually cost about $20 million to build. And it said that Erbil is one of the many cities threatened by ISIS, but recent U.S.-led airstrikes appear to have staved off further attacks by the terrorists, at least for now. So he's building a $20 million dream house in an area known to be attacked by ISIS as a replica of the White House. It's like, what's wrong with this picture?
Which means that they know that sooner or later things will settle down and that's going to be a big major center.
It says Dream City is one of many, it sounds like a mind control thing, Dream City, is one of many gated communities being built in Iraq. Land in the wealthy enclave starts at $250 per square foot and houses sell for about $100,000 per square foot.
Wow.
So something's going on there, obviously. And then this was interesting. This news article I found was actually reported in the Boston Globe. There's a Tufts University political scientist, Michael J. Glennon, who claims that Obama could not have changed policies even if he tried because he has written a book about the secret government.
Who has?
You weren't listening to me.
Well,
Tufts University
Yeah.
political scientist Michael J. Glennon.
You know, because he made it sound like Obama wrote the book.
No, Obama said, he claims, this Professor Glennon claims, Obama could not have changed policies.
Right, I heard that.
Because he says Americans believe that we, can elect our officials, blah, blah, but he has written a book called, quote, National Security and Double Government. We call it the secret government, he's calling it the double government, and he's claiming that the defense and national security apparatus is effectively self-governing with virtually no accountability, no transparency, no checks or balances of any time. He says there's a double government, the one we elect and then the one that's behind it, who's actually steering the policy and is unchecked. He says elected officials end up serving as mere cover for the real decisions made by the bureaucracy.
Well, that's true.
And he said he wrote the book because he was wondering why Barack Obama embraced this very same national security and counterterrorism policies that he campaigned against. And he began to realize he can't do anything about it, and he interviewed, he said, dozens of individuals in the military, law enforcement, intelligence agencies, office holders, and the courts. And he has 800 footnotes, and it's quite an extensive book.
Okay.
So this really does support everything you're saying. Plus, it says the ultimate problem is the pervasive political ignorance on the part of the American people.
Ignorance, period.
And indifference to the threat that is emerging from these concealed institutions.
That's right.
He claims that is where the energy for reform has to come from, which is the American people. So again, while it's bringing out the truth, I do think it's adding to the unrest that's kind of boiling here in America. Now, here's another interesting story. Remember last week I reported about the Uber taxis and the president of the Pennsylvania Taxi Association?
Right.
Okay, I have noticed this week that Uber has been all over the news. Now, I had never really heard of Uber except if you're in New York City and there's the taxi service.
No, Deutschland über alles is the national anthem.
Okay, so is Uber a trigger word? That's what I want to ask you. Because there was a video called Are You Getting a Fair Ride from Uber? They're talking about Uber horror stories from Halloween where people were paying too much. There have been comedians making fun of Uber. And then a woman woke up to a $362 Uber receipt, which in my opinion in New York City really isn't that bad considering New York City.
That's still a lot.
It's a lot, but I mean, anyway, it's still not that bad considering, not enough to warrant a news story. That's my point. So what she did was she put it on the internet. She raised $500 from sympathetic internet users. And then somebody else wrote to her, if you're already having trouble paying rent, drinking to the point of not remembering on your birthday and rent day doesn't seem like the best idea. But the word Uber, U-B-E-R, is all over the internet right now. So I'd say, there's something going on behind Uber. Now here's one for you. Did you know that they're making transparent cars?
No.
Yes, researchers in Japan have built a system that gives drivers a 360-degree view of the world around them. So this sounds like UFO technology to me. And they're talking about that.
It is UFO technology.
Yes, because you can go inside of one and you can see out, but nobody can see in, right?
Was that cars like that too?
This is a transparent Toyota Prius using a computer connected to a system of half mirrors, they're saying, which bends light. And so not only can they see out of their car, but they can actually see through the passengers in the back seat.
Really?
So, and then they're talking about how they call it optical camouflage that uses similar technology. And then they are going to also use these systems for projecting MRI scans onto patients during surgery, giving interior rooms an outside view without windows. And they're saying that it's a simple technology that can easily be implemented. So I thought that was interesting. Plus, if you notice on my Facebook page, I've been talking about the clear, transparent flowers, the butterflies, the animals in the sea. Now we have the car. So as we get into the clear energies, we have now the clear cars. You wrote about the clear people or transparent people and blue blood, true blood.
I talked about it in OMG.
Yeah, so I think that this is interesting on many levels. That's why I brought that forward. Okay, now on to New World Religion. Now, we have talked about the fall of the Catholic Church, correct?
Yes.
And there have been many people who think that this is the last pope. So this story, in light of that, I thought was interesting. There's a man called Cardinal Burke who claims the Catholic Church under Pope Francis is, quote, a ship without a rudder.
Yeah, I read something like that.
Yeah. He said that many have expressed their concerns to me. This is a quote. At this very critical moment, there is a strong sense that the church is like a ship without a rudder. Now it is more important than ever to examine our faith, have a healthy spiritual leader, and give powerful witness to faith. Now he claims that he is going to be demoted because right now he is head of the Vatican's highest court, known as the Apostolic Signatura. So then that did happen. I just read about that today. And they're going to demote him to a ceremonial post called Patron of the Order of Malta.
Because he commented?
Because of these comments, but they're not saying that publicly. But he goes on, then there's another bishop, this is John Thavis, a former Rome Bureau chief for Catholic News, that says, quote, "Many of the U.S. bishops have been disoriented by what this new pope is saying, and I don't see them really as embracing the pope's agenda. To a large degree, the U.S. bishops have lost their bearings. I think up until now they felt Rome had their back, and what they were saying, especially politically, would eventually be supported in Rome. They cannot count on that now." Unquote. Then we have Bishop Thomas Tobin of Providence, Rhode Island, who says that the church leaders' discussions struck him as rather Protestant, which of course the Catholics don't like Protestants. And then he referenced a remark that Pope Francis had made to young Catholics last year, that they shake up the church and make a mess in the diocese. So then he goes on to say, quote, "Pope Francis is fond of creating a mess. Mission accomplished." So I thought this is kind of interesting. And then listen to this one. He says, Archbishop Charles Chaput of Philadelphia says, "I think confusion is of the devil. I think the public image that came across was confusion." So now they're tying him to the devil. Francis is pressing U.S. bishops to make what for many prelates is a wrenching turnaround, because they're asking them to accept gay relationships and what they see as animosity toward Christians in America.
And also aliens. They want people to accept the aliens.
But I think that's interesting when we talk about the shakeup that's going on in the Catholic Church, because now they're starting to set this division within it. So what's going to happen?
That's happened before.
Yes, but let's see what happens. And then we have, did you know, goat heads hanging from a New York City light pole and Park Slope, and before that,
That's in Brooklyn.
yes, and in Prospect Park. Last March, a furry goat head and another decapitated head was found in Prospect Park in 2010.
So what does that mean?
Well, goat heads have to do with
Satanic worship.
right, and ritual. So we're seeing more and more of that. And speaking of satanic ritual, The Hunger Games, which of course is a popular book being turned into movies, they're claiming now that it's going to debut on stage in London in 2016. And I reported about the Hunger Games back in 2012 as part of the U.S. school curriculum, where they actually took children to see the movie, and I think the books in the movie are really horrible and disgusting. But anyway, it's still being promoted regardless of what I think. But
They didn't ask you.
they didn't ask me, but I would certainly give them my opinion. So more ritual that they're imprinting the young people with, especially, because to me that's enough to give them nightmares. And then we have a female woolly mammoth who was found in May of 2013 in Siberia, which I actually reported on back then, that they found with blood.
Oh yeah.
Remember the blood that was not frozen?
Right.
And so they're
After
bringing
all
that.
those years.
Yes, they're bringing it up again, and they're saying, did woolly mammoth blood have a special natural quality that prevented it freezing? This is what scientists are now
Like
suspecting.
antifreeze blood.
Despite a temperature of minus 10 C, the blood was still liquid. And why are the mammoth remains in better condition after tens of thousands of years than a dead human after only 6 months?
You know why?
Why?
It was a Russian woolly mammoth. They probably drank a lot of vodka.
That could be. They like
telling
vodka.
you.
Vodka just means little water. It must have
You
drank a
won't
lot
freeze
of
if
water.
you drink vodka.
So now they're talking about its age and its death, and about if they can, of course, clone it from the blood.
It's been done. It's been done
Yeah,
already.
but they're bringing that out publicly, so I think that's important to keep our eye on because of the fact they're bringing up about the blood again. And the blood, as we know, has to do with ritual. Now this was interesting. There's a show out on the History Channel called Search for the Lost Giants, saying, did giants once live in North America?
Oh.
And they brought a quote here from Abraham Lincoln that claims that in 1848, he traveled to Niagara Falls, and Lincoln was so impressed by the imagery of the natural wonder that he wrote down some notes, and this is what he said, quote, "When Columbus first sought this continent, when Christ suffered on the cross, when Moses led Israel through the Red Sea, nay, even when Adam first came from the hand of his Maker, then as now, Niagara was roaring here. The eyes of that species of extinct giants whose bones fill the mountains of America have gazed on Niagara as ours do now. So, was Lincoln referring to giant humans? That was the question.
No, but there have been giant skeletons found in those Indian mounds.
Yes, and it says in the early 1800s, large bones in stone graves were found in Tennessee.
Right, all over.
The average size of the skeletons were 7 feet tall. In 1833, soldiers reportedly found a 12-foot tall male skeleton in California. An almost 10-foot tall skeleton was allegedly excavated in Indiana in 1879. 18 giant skeletons in 1912 were reported in a Wisconsin burial mound. In 2011, the Russian political newspaper Pravda published an account of a team of anthropologists who found a burial site in Central Africa, including 40 graves that contained 200 bodies of 7-foot tall individuals. And according to Pravda, the researchers believe that these beings, quote, were members of an alien landing, possibly destroyed by some terrestrial virus to which they had no immunity. Then in 1895, there was an account in a town history of Deerfield, Massachusetts, of an 8-foot skeleton that had double rows of teeth unearthed.
I heard about that one.
And the skull was as big as a pick basket. And then he said the more that they sifted through thousands of pages of town and county histories in New England, they found many similar accounts of discoveries of several rows of teeth, and it might be a genetic connection to the past, as well as proportional individuals 10, 11, and 12 feet tall, multiple accounts of multiple skulls found with double rows of teeth. Finally, they said there are petroglyphs, which show beings with 6 fingers and toes. Giant axes, native legends, it's coming from many different angles. And so, anyway, this is this Search for the Lost Giants on History Channel. And speaking of television, did you see the show that's going to be aired December 7 called Eaten Alive?
I don't watch television.
No. Did you see the write-up about it? Because it hasn't aired until December 7th, so you haven't seen it.
No, but I wouldn't anyway.
But did you hear about it?
Just get to the point.
Did you hear about it?
No.
Okay. There's a man named Paul Rosalie who is going to be eaten alive by a giant anaconda.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that I heard
See?
about that. But you weren't getting to the point.
Well, because you were delaying me, because you're not good with your organization like I am. Okay, now what they claim is that this man they're going to cover in pig's blood, and then they're going to put him in a pen with this giant anaconda. And they're also, it says, they're going to put him in a protective suit that has a tether, presumably for air, and perhaps to drag him out should things not go as planned. Now, isn't that just bizarre?
Why would he do that?
But we've talked a lot about how snakes are all
No, but
over.
what's the point of it?
Snakes have to do with ritual. So again, you know, I think it's a ritual. Anyway, it's disgusting. Okay, and this is my last one.
Yay!
Which is disgusting.
Oh.
This is about the Today Show host. Did you read about this one?
No.
Maybe. Say maybe this
No,
time.
I
That's what
didn't.
we say. Okay, and now did you know that in this November, I guess November all the time from now on, because they make it sound like it was like forever, November is Men's Health Awareness Month? And apparently,
I wasn't aware.
last year, Today hosts Matt Lauer and Al Roker received prostate exams on the air.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
To promote that.
And who would want to watch it?
Well, apparently a lot of people, because guess what's happening now?
What?
Now, NBC personalities Willie Geist and Carson Daly will undergo testicular exams for a live broadcast segment on November 20th on the Today Show.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And next they're going to have women's gynecological exams. Watch. I told you 2 or 3 years ago that once they did this stuff with women, they were going to do it with men, and here we go. And also, you're not supposed to shave this month. And I'm not sure if this is...
I'm okay with that.
I'm not sure if this is for men and women, or if it's just for men's
Well, I hope
thing.
women don't have to.
Well,
you know what I meant.
no, I don't know what
Like
you meant.
here.
Oh. Anyway, the men of NBC's Today will once again participate in No Shave November. Apparently, they're going to be discussing their beards.
Because that's so interesting.
Yeah, so anyway, I just thought, again, they're making everything be publicly acceptable. So I just thought, it's really crazy, people.
Now, if they had women discussing their beards, that might be interesting.
It might be interesting. And then they could evaluate who had the
And if
best
they
one.
had women having a testicular exam, that would be
That
interesting.
would be interesting, I agree. Or a women's prostate exam.
Right, that would be interesting.
Okay. Anyway,
Because then they could use Michelle Obama for that.
well, we're not going to even go there, because that's...
Yeah, well, I should be careful because look what happened to Joan Rivers when she said that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm not going to go for any throat
No,
examination
I
myself.
don't think you should.
No.
All right, so with that said, I want to remind people that in January is our next big event, which is our Hyperspace Oversoul Extravaganza right here in St. Joseph, Michigan.
And that you'll be doing testicular examinations?
You're talking to yourself,
I can't talk anymore.
so that's not going to happen. However, you might appear nude or without pants.
What else is new?
Yeah, but don't worry, I have lots of sheets. I'll keep him well covered.
Yeah, and it's actually brave for me to do that in January.
And I promise you, if he decides to have a testicular exam or prostate exam live, we will film it for you.
And it'll be outside in the snow.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll have
Then you don't need anesthesia.
a special snowsuit.
Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying your own humor.
Well, you're the one that brought up the subjects, not me. Anyway, so January, our Hyperspace Oversoul Extravaganza class is going to be amazing. We always have a great time and we learn a lot. So it's a great way to start off 2015, which is actually an Oversoul Energy Money Year. So if you want to get your feet firmly planted, then this is the class to attend. We have in April, we have our health and healing one, Addicted to Addictions, Get Hooked on Health Instead. And you can be addicted to anything, including negative mind patterns. So we're going to be taking a look at a lot of interesting things in April. And we have our ever popular day with Stewart, although I don't understand why. I spend every day with you.
That's nothing special for you.
Some people keep coming back. In fact, some people come for 2 or 3 days.
Some come for a week.
They come for a week. And if you have your own agenda that you want to investigate, explore, it really is a
Prostate exam.
prime opportunity. We'll put you on the podcast if you want to do that, I guess. Yeah. So anyway.
I'll wear my Ebola covering when I do that.
You're going to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Well.
That, it was that plastic stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of scary now. Anyway, so we have lots of...
Well, you did it to cows.
I never did
You did so.
testicular exams.
You stick your hand up to your arm.
That's called artificial insemination.
If you do it, it has another name.
Well, it does. It's a whole different process,
Oh,
my
of course,
dear.
because Janet did it.
Yeah, I did castrate, but I didn't examine.
Okay, I didn't want to go there, okay?
Well, you're close enough, so we might as
Oh,
well.
my.
But we didn't do the
Maybe
other
I should
stuff.
have a testicular exam every day. Make sure you didn't do that stuff.
Well, I think if I did it, you would know it.
No, but other people could be witnesses for court.
Well, we're gonna have to film it then. Anyway, so we have lots of stuff going on. Be sure you go on Facebook, like our page. We're over 3,000 likes, so we only have like another 100,000 to go.
Yeah, like 1 million.
So please invite all your Facebook fans and friends and family to like our page to help raise us up in the Google status. It helps people find us who are looking for this kind of information. Color, tone, and archetype. And what else?
Well,
Join our membership. Right, be a member. We have great things going on our blog. This month it is Pound Poverty Programming into Prosperity Punch. We're talking about finances and what else you can be impoverished with in your mind patterns and how that affects your energy flow, your financial flow, all of that. A tank full of thankful affirmations. Stuart has your stuff. You have your things
my
that
blog.
you put on there. A lot of things we don't put on the homepage. So
Right.
anyway, join our membership. What else?
Well, there's Poland and
Oh yeah, you're going to be going
all
to
that
Poland
stuff.
in March. Watch our website for that. Vienna in Austria, is that going to happen?
Prague.
Okay, so lots of things going on. Always watch the website. We do our best to keep you informed in all the ways we can. We appreciate your attention. We appreciate your support always. So that's it.
That's it for me too. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.